Bora? Domingueira? O vídeo de hoje é do FUD, Why I Fundamentally Disagree with ALG Dream Spanish Part 2. Eu vi esse vídeo, eu vi a parte 1, né? Quando ele lançou. Só que agora ele lançou a parte 2. São 39 minutos. Não sei se eu vou ver os 39 minutos, tá? Eu já estudei bastante hoje inglês. Então, mas vamos ver o que dá. Let's go.
What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do part 2 of why I fundamentally disagree with ALG Dreaming Spanish. Now, if you saw this video, you know it was a long one. It was an hour and 13 minutes in which I reacted to the first 4 videos by David Long on his speech about what is ALG, the Automatic Language Growth Method, okay? Now, I decided to do this because I've had a lot of people in the ALG community react to my videos, or they even just talk on, Reddit and different places saying that I don't understand ALG, etc., and I should have watched his speeches. When in fact, I had watched his speeches before I even started my little challenge, but I decided to do a full react for the community just so I could point out that, I've done it, okay? And I did the first 4 videos. Now, I honestly thought that this video would be a dud. No one would care about it. But a bunch of you really fucking loved it. I even got subs off of this, which was actually surprising to me, and it's still getting views right now. So I figure I might as well finish this off because there was a lot of requests that I go to video 5 and 6 and just finish off, have the complete series on my channel, okay? And then maybe, because some people suggested I go basically react to the podcasts that he's done with a few different creators, some of them which are like hours long. So let's begin. Now, for the...
Tá, beleza. Então vai terminar a parte 5 e a parte 6. Que aí vai finalizar o assunto. Diz ele que tem um podcast também, mas provavelmente não vai ver.
Those who have not seen my previous video, go watch it. Don't watch this video first if you have not seen the previous one. This will make absolutely no sense. You are literally being dropped into the middle of a discussion that's been going on for a while. So go watch it. Now, for those who did watch it, let me give you just a quick update on what we were last discussing. He was talking about guessing and how children guess meaning of words that they're hearing different to how adults do it, and how adults seek precision while children just let things flow over them. Now, I do have one gripe. I think I mentioned in my previous video, but I'll mention it anyway right now, okay? I don't like the term guess that they use here, because guessing to me is an active process. If I see something and I perform a guess, I'm making a decision, right? Like, that's just inherent to the meaning of the word to me, okay? So some type of decision's being made about what it is. However, the way that they use guess actually means to perform a subconscious figuring out of the meaning of something just based on its context. In fact, you should at no point be actively trying to figure something out, trying to think, trying to guess. You should just let it happen. And I think he'll probably stress that again.
Agora eu entendi o que ele tá falando. É porque no último vídeo o cara falou que existia 2 cérebros. Na verdade você tem um, só que aí você teria o cérebro do inglês, o cérebro da sua língua nativa, e aí se você for aprender um outro cérebro, eu discordo, e o D discorda, mas eu não sou fluente em nenhum idioma, a não ser o meu nativo, então eu ainda tenho que ficar quietinho. Quando eu tiver fluente em inglês e a minha língua nativa, native language, português, ok? Então aí eu vou poder falar bastante asneiras.
Let's go.
So our adult desire to do that quickly needs to be put aside. Get comfortable guessing. All right? That's how
Guess
you
é adivinhar,
understand
não é?
what's going on. What that means in practice is when the student arrives in our classroom for the first day, they might be a bit lost. But after the first week, their understanding of what's going on rises to an easy 80%. Normally. If they're setting aside the adult tendency, what's this word mean? What's that word mean? Oh, I heard this yesterday. Put it all behind you. Step out and let the rain wash over you. Don't worry about each drop. All right?
See, this is why I have to stress, okay, that there is no active thinking going on ALG. You should be just sitting there watching the content, or as it was traditionally done, watching the class, the teacher, okay, and just living in the moment without trying to actively engage, trying to think about stuff. This is why whenever someone comes into my comment section, they say, hey, ALG is working great for me. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing? They're like, well, I'm just doing what you're doing. But I guess I look up words every now and then. And, I've used flashcards a little bit over here. I did some grammar study. I'm like, that's not ALG. What you've done is mass amount of input with some word lookups and some grammar study. It's not ALG. ALG, it's fundamental to the actual methodology that you do not try to figure stuff out. So I need to point that out because it's very black and white as a methodology. Like literally every other method to learn a language that I can think of, there's no point where they're like, you're not doing the method because you decided to add something else onto it, okay? Like direct method, if you decide to go do flashcards and study, grammar, even though direct method doesn't like specifically use that stuff, they're not like teachers of direct method. I was one of them. I've got an Esperanto channel where I teach Esperanto by direct method. There's no point where we're going to go, well, what's up guys, Evil Deer here, and welcome to my new channel where I
apertei sem querer, né? Eu achei que abriu a outra
people in the
aqui.
ALG community react to my videos, or they
Peraí.
even just talk on, Reddit. Like literally every other method to learn a language that I can think of, there's no point where they're like, you're not doing the method because you decided to add something else onto it, okay? Like direct method, if you decide to go do flashcards and study, grammar, even though direct method doesn't like specifically use that stuff, they're not like teachers of direct method. I was one of them. I've got an Esperanto channel where I teach Esperanto by direct method. There's no point where we're going to go, well, you're not doing direct method anymore. Okay, because for ALG, the fundamental thinking of the method is it works as long as you don't do those things, okay? So what is not present is actually important.
Let that happen. All you do is sit there and
Então, eu comecei, vamos mudar aqui. Eu comecei a fazer esse método ALG, mas porque eu estava mais... Quando eu vejo um filme com a legenda em inglês e um filme que é nativo em inglês, eu entendo. E quando eu tava vendo a mesma coisa sem o suporte da legenda, eu não entendia. Eu não entendia muitas palavras básicas que eu entendia com a legenda, eu não entendia sem. Então eu comecei a fazer essa metodologia, mas para melhorar minha audição. Hoje em dia minha audição tá melhor, só que não tá top dos top, mas tá melhor, bem melhor. E eu tenho 46 horas só de input direto ali. E eu acho também, eu concordo com o Evil Dia que não é uma coisa... É demorado pra caramba. Por quê? Você vai ter que ficar aqui, você vai ser só consumindo, e na metodologia... Bom, refrescando a memória. Se você usar só o ALG, Acquire Language, Grow, sei lá o nome do negócio, você não pode traduzir, primeiramente, você não pode ficar traduzindo palavra, você só tem que consumir e pegar pelo contexto, aí você vai pegando de níveis básicos e vai aumentando seu nível, é isso, a metodologia. Eu já discordo porque eu acho... E eu vejo o que funciona pra mim, entendeu? Eu tô 40 horas só fazendo isso, eu vi que, pô, não tá dando retorno, não. Tá melhorando a minha audição, porque eu tô consumindo o conteúdo, mas beleza. O que ajuda muito é você misturar várias metodologias. Porque se você ficar só nisso, sei lá, você fica muito precário, talvez, não sei. Então eu vou continuar consumindo conteúdo nativo, mas também eu vou começar a fazer as outras coisas. Igual, ver palavras, ver traduções de alguma coisa. Porque, porra, é besteira você ficar não fazendo essas coisas. E aí quando eu ficar fluente eu volto e falo assim, é verdade, Marinho tava certo.
get as much guessing going as you can. Guess about this, guess about that. What happens if you make the wrong guess? It's all right. Further experiences will sort those guesses out.
Again, I don't like how guesses...
E antes dele falar aqui, o Evil Dia, eu acho que muitas palavras talvez você nem pega pelo contexto também. Porque tem uns contextos muito específicos que é muito difícil você pegar a palavra. Até no português, a minha língua nativa, se você falar uma palavra, é pelo contexto, mas é uma palavra difícil. Ela que daria o contexto, não a frase em geral. Entendeu? Vocês entenderam o que eu tô falando? Muita gente que prega esse tipo de metodologia, ela não faz só isso. A pessoa prega que faz, mas não faz só isso. E eu tenho certeza disso. Certeza absoluta.
Is being used here. Actually, his where he was talking about letting it wash over you, like let the raindrops just hit you type of thing, that's better for what they mean by guessing, because some of those raindrops hit you and that's you essentially starting to figure out the context. Well, you're not like tracking every single raindrop.
For you. You don't have to worry about it. And what we found is those who guess best wind up with the best language in the end, the highest levels of fluency.
So essentially, those who avoid doing all that stuff an adult does is the ones who have the best learning at the end, or the best understanding and usability of the language. Now, this is not my thoughts. I'm just kind of putting you guys into his head, understanding what he means, because like I've been engaged in this shit for like 900 plus hours at this point, okay? Not all of you guys have gone down that route.
One other objection some people have from time to time is, as an adult learning through the ALG method, I'm not a child anymore. Just quite frankly, I'm not 1 year old. So with that in mind, how do we respond to that? I think it's true that we're not, and that's the problem. If you were, we wouldn't be having this discussion in the first place. We wouldn't be learning how to do it the child's way, would we?
Again, this is why people say ALG is the child's way, because that's what they keep aiming for.
The fact is that we wouldn't be learning how to do it the child's way, would we?
Again, this is why people say ALG is the child's way, because that's what they keep aiming for.
The fact is that we wouldn't be learning.
É igual, ó, beleza, eu entendi que o Evil Dia falou. Eu perco muita palavra, lógico, muita. Mas eu entendi que ele falou que as pessoas da metodologia dizem isso por não sei o quê. Não sei o quê. Beleza. Se eu colocar a legenda aqui, ó. Esse aqui é o comentário, né? Deixa eu colocar a legenda aqui, ó.
Learning how to do it the child's way, would we?
Again, this is why people say ALG.
Again, this is why people say ALG. De novo, isso é o porquê as pessoas dizem que ALG
is the child's way, because that's what they keep aiming for.
Isso é porque eles dizem que é uma metodologia de criança, né? Crescimento infantil, que aprende como uma criança, tipo isso. É porque é o que eles mantêm focado. Que eles focaram nisso. Viu só? Quando eu leio é muito mais legal.
The fact is that adults
Mas eu tinha parado de fazer com legenda por conta de eu estava usando como muleta e minha audição estava muito precária.
have a lot of experiences. And it's a natural now tendency to say, what does this word mean and what does that sound mean? And so I think it's important that we actually focus, instead of trying to remember things, we need to
É isso que eles pregam. Não saber o que significa a palavra ou o som, mas não decorar, mas você vai lembrar.
focus ourselves on trying not to use those adult tendencies. Can you do that? If you're determined, sure.
E o que... Eu vou pausar quantas vezes eu quiser, porque o vídeo é meu, tá? Mas o que o Evil Dia tá fazendo é uma coisa, mano, excepcional. Porque ele é nativo. Ele é australiano, né? Mas ele é fluente em inglês. Esperanto também ele é fluente. Chinese, ele tá no nível avançado, não sei se tá fluente já. Mas o espanhol, ele começou a tentar... Ele falou assim, ó, vou começar a estudar espanhol, eu vou usar essa metodologia até o final. Então, ele usou ALD, a metodologia de aquisição de idiomas. E ele já tá com ele chegou agora, semana passada, 950 horas de input. Isso tem mais de 1 ano e meio, 1 ano e 3 meses, assim, que ele tá estudando isso. E ele viu que, demora muito se ele pegar... E ele fala que se ele pegasse esse tempo todo e estudasse do jeito que ele sabe estudar, do jeito que... Com flashcards, com... lógico, com idioma, consumindo, mas também misturando outras coisas, ele sabe que ele estaria muito melhor. Ele tenta falar, ele não consegue falar, porque a metodologia fala, do Dream Spanish lá, fala que, na verdade a metodologia é desse cara aqui, mas o Dream Spanish popularizou, o Pablo do Dream Spanish. E fala que você só pode falar depois das 1000 horas de input, que aí você já vai conseguir falar. Não é assim, pô. Se você nunca falou, do nada você acha que vai falar, não é de um dia pra noite você vai falar. Você vai ter que ir treinando sua fala, pô. É igual eu. Eu não sei falar com o público. Aí do nada eu vou. É só consumir conteúdo de pessoas que estão falando com o público que do nada eu vou falar. Não é assim. Você tem que treinar seu discurso.
It's a lot easier to adjust the way you're accustomed to listening than it is to try to remember 20 new words every day for the quiz that's bound to happen. I mean, let's face it, you learn 20 new words every
E eu parei de usar o flashcard, eu já falei muitas vezes, porque estava consumindo muito tempo e eu só estava fazendo isso, porque por conta da minha rotina diária ter pouca flexibilidade de horário, eu ter pouco tempo para estudar, o flashcard eu só estava fazendo ele, eu não estava fazendo outras coisas. Então, quando melhorar, quando tiver uma disponibilidade maior de tempo, eu vou voltar, porque é uma coisa muito boa. Talvez o jeito que eu estava escrevendo os cards não estava sendo bom, mas eu tenho que melhorar essa questão.
day. By Friday, you've forgotten what the words on Monday were.
I don't agree with that. I've spoken about flashcards plenty of times and how to utilize them, but I'm not going to get into a discussion over that stuff. I will say I don't agree with that.
Eu concordo com ele.
I've spoken about flashcards plenty of times and how to utilize them, but I'm not going to get into a
Que não usamos todos os flashcards, que são alguns inúteis, né? Que eu falo.
discussion over that stuff. I will say one thing though. When you use flashcards and you do forget stuff, you are keenly aware of the fact that you've forgotten stuff because literally a flashcard pops up in your face and says, "Do you remember this?" And you'll be like, "Fuck, no I don't." Like, you're aware of it, okay? But the fact that you're forgetting stuff is not unique to that method, you know, using flashcards. In fact, it's a major part of even ALG, okay? Because, like, there are words in Spanish that I've heard potentially hundreds of times at this point, and I am still unable to recognize, utilize, possibly even hear them because, well, I've just forgotten them. Like, I saw them once, they came up. Well,
É o que eu acabei de falar. É tanta palavra que talvez ele nem vai ver de novo. Se ver também é bem raro, então ele nem sabe o significado, depende do significado.
I heard them once, they came up, but, you know, I forgot them like 2 seconds later because, you know, for whatever reason, my brain just decided not to remember them. Okay, maybe there was not enough context, maybe there was enough context, but like still, it was just, for whatever reason, my brain just didn't like that word in that moment. Maybe for that microsecond, I wasn't focused in on it, you know. That's the difference. You are keenly aware of what you've forgotten when you use flashcards, but when you're using this type of method, you're actually not aware of what you don't know. That's one of the benefits to this type of thing for those who don't like that type of, you know, being reminded of their own failures.
There's a limit. No matter how good you are at that, there's a limit to how far your ability to remember and recall can take you. What we know, though, of the brain is there's no limit on what experiences we can collect. Collect more, you gain more. And in language, that couldn't be more true. What are the skills that our teachers use to enable the student to understand?
Eu ainda vou comprar um quadro branco assim, igual ele tem ali. Porque eu sou uma pessoa muito visual. Tem um quadro branco aqui em cima da parede, aqui, ó. Onde fica o computador, nossa, muito top.
Initially, these were developed almost by accident and all through on-the-job training. In the early days in 1984 and 85, many sleepless nights trying to decide what new experience can we provide for the students. The progress from level 1 all the way through to level 10 varies. But if we
Okay, I first watched this series back before I even started Dreaming Spanish. He's talking about 10 levels. If you go look at...
Peraí.
level 10 varies. But if we
Okay, I first watched this series back before I even started Dreaming Spanish. He's talking about 10 levels. If you go look at Dreaming Spanish, we actually only have 7 levels. So we're not going to see a perfect matchup with whatever he's got to say, or maybe they go beyond this, okay? We'll see in a second.
we group our levels in a way that makes sense for the student, we can group them like this. We have 3 to 4, level 1, level 2, 3, 4, and 5 through 10. In fact, we can go 5 through 6 and 7 through 10 if necessary. But by this time, by level 5, we're going off into writing classes and other sorts of classes that vary.
Okay, so they have writing classes at level 5 plus. Dreaming Spanish, I don't believe actually ever talks about writing. Like if I just go Control F, write. No, it doesn't. But if we go reading, it talks about reading. So that's interesting because his level 5, they start with writing. Again, that's a difference. And the reason I say again that's a difference is because in my 900-hour Dreaming Spanish update, I actually talk about the fact that the more I do this and the further I get along with the Dreaming Spanish method, the more it diverges from the traditional ALG. And in fact, I'm now at the point of thinking that literally no one is doing ALG. Because in order to do ALG, you
É o que ele tá falando, a diferença do Dream Spanish pelo verdadeiro ALG.
From the traditional ALG. And in fact, I'm now at the point of thinking that literally no one is doing ALG. Because in order to do ALG, you must be in a classroom environment. You must be engaging with teachers. The only way I think you could possibly replicate it is if you did crosstalk for like 6 hours a day, every single day, for like a year or 2 years. Because when we're sitting here and we're just watching media, that's not the same as being in a classroom with teachers who are telling funny stories, like actively engaging with you, playing games with you. And then there's obviously the difference in writing here. Like that's a big difference. Like you might not think it. You might think, well, what's the difference between, you know, playing games with a teacher and other classmates in a target language as opposed to watching a video of people playing, you know, games? There's a big difference because when you're just watching a video, you're kind of like third-partying this, but once you're actually engaged within it, like imagine if someone picks up this knife and they explain to you that this is sharp in the language, okay? So if you're just watching someone do this and like with someone else, you might be like, okay, what does he mean? Like you might go, ooh, like then you might, okay, that's sharp. But like if they're explaining the feeling of the texture difference between, let's say, this and this, you know, the skin of the banana, you kind of need to feel that to associate those words. You could actually in that moment go, well, it's kind of like the English sharp, I guess. That's what they're trying to get at there. But like, unless you're feeling that, there's a difference. And that's just one thing that just randomly popped into my head because I have a plate with a banana
Tá, eu não entendi a comparação ali.
and a knife on it in front of me.
By level 5, students are speaking, or almost ready to speak. So levels 1, 2, and 3, they're already arriving at about 65% of their understanding of native Thai out on the road. So if we're in Thai, that's going to be going out in Thailand and listening to Thai, understanding 65%. If I go to China, I'm learning Chinese this way. I'm understanding about 65% of the words that I'm hearing around me. It's not bad. It takes a year. The second year is developed.
So it takes a year to learn 65% of Thai, just understanding it. And that takes us to level 5, but they have 10 levels. And Dreaming Spanish has 7 levels, okay? Which obviously would be 3.5. And I'm not gonna, like, would you understand 65% of Spanish at level 3? No, I'd say it's probably like level 5 that you get 65% of Spanish. Maybe level 4. Depending, like, obviously, if you've got any background in Spanish, it would be around here. So it's like, I know these are all rough numbers, and it's very dependent on the person in question. But, like, the more I'm going along, the more I'm thinking that I'm just going to start separating these two and calling them two different things. I'm going to have traditional ALG and DSALG, and just say that because, like, they're very, very different at the end of the day. It actually took me this long to kind of, like, recognize that, like, just going through my own journey to go, okay, I can see how this would be vastly different.
Developing other things like the reading and writing, and then developing the speaking ability and actual intercommunication. What skills do the teachers use? Remember that we start out with a lot of looking, naturally listening, but we don't know what we're hearing.
Tá, nós vimos 14 minutos desse vídeo. O vídeo tem mais de 24, né? Eu falei bastante. Mas eu vou deixar o restante. Ou o restante eu vejo aqui em casa sozinho, ou o restante eu vejo amanhã com vocês. Mas enfim, adiós. Tenho que fazer coisas, tenho que estudar. Faculdade. Já fiz o trabalho de extensão. Tenho que estudar para prova. Faculdade. Tenho que limpar a casa e tenho que comprar coisas para almoço. Já almocei, mas pro almoço futuro, né? Tchau, bye, bye, bye.